Off with the hot topic of the hour, President Trump is calling for the impeachment of the federal judge who is ordering a halt of his Venezuelan deportation flights, many of whom are said to be gang members on board of those flights. Judge James Boasberg demanding more details by noon today, as the Justice Department is maintaining it did not defy a court order. Trump standing by his decision in an interview last night on Fox News with Laura Ingraham.
They left other countries to come in here. They came through an open border. They're making millions of dollars destroying people's lives, killing people. And that's a presidential thing. We're supposed to be getting them out or getting them brought to justice. We had a judge, I would call him a rogue judge. You can call him whatever you want. I know nothing about him. I heard about this very late in the process, and I said, that's a strange order. Judges
Would you
that were
defy
so
a court
corrupt,
order? Because we all know that was outrageous.
I never did defy a court order.
And you wouldn't in the future?
No, you can't do that. However, we have bad judges.
The president also detailing his deportation goals and how many illegals he thinks are still in America. That part of the interview will air tonight, but here is a clip.
You need about 60,000 a week to hit 12 million. But should the American people tonight believe that only criminals are going to be deported, only the worst of the worst?
They're going
or
first.
Anyone who's here illegally, who came here illegally, should self-deport and then try to come back?
They're going first. The hard-line criminals, and we're finding them. But obviously, they're going first, and we'll go through the process. And I don't believe it's 12. I think it's 21 million people, by the way. I really do. I think it's 21, including so-called gotaways. Nobody has any idea. Chief Justice John Roberts has issued a rare statement over this feud. He writes this: "It has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose." Shortly after Texas Congressman Brandon Gill filed articles of impeachment against Judge Boasberg, writing this: "For the past several weeks, we've seen several rogue activist judges try to impede the president from exercising not only the mandate voters gave him, but the democratic and constitutional authority to keep the American people safe. This is another example of a rogue judge overstepping his authority." Don't miss more of Laura's interview tonight with President Trump. That's on Fox News at 7 p.m. Eastern. She's got a lot coming up right there. Jonathan, your reaction?
Well, I think one of the things that was interesting with Trump's interview was he said he's going to obey the court order. So these people are saying he's doing all these unconstitutional things. He said he'll obey it, but these judges really are out of line here, particularly in this Alien Enemies Act, because the sole purpose of this act was to empower the executive to make these decisions outside of judicial review. So now a judge is injecting himself. And what's also really troubling about this is the judge basically saying turn planes around in the air, which, you know, safety issues, national security issues should not be in the hands of this judge. But I think ultimately this is going to be a win for President Trump, because this judge will be appealed, President Trump will be vindicated, and then this legitimizes everything he's doing and empowers him. And some of these other judges have really gone way over their skis, basically telling the president who he can and cannot fire. And I think ultimately those will fail too, meaning President Trump will prevail on those issues as well.
I mean, how do you make a ruling to turn the flights around and not even focus on the issue at hand, Adam? The fact that these people on those flights are not wanted in America. They're dangerous drug cartel members.
They're on those airplanes for a reason, and the reason is they're bad people and get them out.
Right.
I think it's fascinating that 20 AGs from 20 different states are falling in behind President Trump, saying, no, we actually support you, President Trump. And so we're now stuck in some sort of peculiar legal process. I'm not sure any of us have ever seen this before, where a single judge tries to countermand the White House. That is democracy at work. Sometimes it's ugly, but there is a logic to checks and balances. I think that the president will ultimately prevail.
You've got to remember who this judge is as well, Emily. I mean, look, let's face it. This is the same judge who gave the smack on the wrist to Kevin Kleinsmith at the FBI during the whole Russia collusion made-up story. This is the same judge that stopped the pipeline from going through North Dakota, as Kevin Kramer told us yesterday. This is a judge that wants to resist Trump, period.
The American people elected Donald Trump in November, not any of these leftist activist judges. These judges are out of touch with the American people. This is just the latest example of what the actions that we've seen from these judges blocking Trump's deportation efforts. We've also seen them try to block the Trump administration's DOJ efforts and and the Trump administration's efforts to deport the protester at Columbia, Mahmoud Khalil. Clearly, these judges are out of line with the American people, and I'm excited to see the Trump administration take action.
Meanwhile, President Trump is trying to end 2 wars. The president gave details last night of his phone call with Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin has agreed, apparently, to pause strikes on Ukrainian energy infrastructure. This is a partial ceasefire. Trump says an overall ceasefire will be more difficult. Watch.
You have a lot of guns pointing at each other, and a ceasefire without going a little bit further would have been tough. Russia has the advantage, as you know. They have encircled about 2,500 soldiers, and that's not good. And we want to get it over with. We had a great call. It lasted almost 2 hours. Talked about a lot of things and toward getting it to peace. And we talked about other things also.
In that call, Russia agreed to more negotiations in Saudi Arabia beginning this Sunday, according to Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. National Security Advisor Michael Waltz and Secretary of State Marco Rubio will lead those discussions in Jeddah, Saudi. Your thoughts, Jonathan?
Donald Trump deserves a lot of credit for just pursuing this because this might not work out well, and he's willing to put himself and his political capital on the line for peace. And we could do what the Biden administration did, was just drift along as people were dying year after year. So I hope it goes well. I'm optimistic, but it's certainly a high-risk game he's playing.
I mean, you've got to ask yourself, where the heck was the Biden administration in these last 4 years?
3 years.
Nowhere.
Look at what President Trump is able to do here in terms of getting these negotiations started. From that peace, trying to get peace going in the world, to rescuing those 2 astronauts.
And there's a very specific reason why Mr. Trump has inserted himself into the war between Russia and Ukraine, and it's called inflation. If he can somehow broker a peace agreement, you then will see oil come down by $10 to $12 because there's a $10 to $12 war premium embedded in oil. You bring oil down, you bring inflation down. You bring inflation down, you have happiness here at home, and you certainly have a strong approval rating. That's why he is pursuing this deal. Inflation.
And also, he wants the killing to stop.
Yeah, well, of
I mean,
course.
he says that repeatedly.